Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. Seb here, and today I want to talk about a subject that I've been seeing all over the internet recently about indigenous people and veganism. So I wanted to talk about this because I feel like the discussion that's going around the subject is quite polarized. No one is actually talking about something specific when it comes to it. People are full on jumping on board against indigenous people and that they should go vegan, and those who are defending indigenous people saying they shouldn't go vegan because veganism is something new and comes from white people and things like that. So I just wanted to go into these small details and talk about it. Before I get to it, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button, and if you use any other social media platforms, feel free to follow me there as well, and stay until the end of the video so you get the full point that I want to explain when it comes to my position and what I think about indigenous people and veganism. So I think the most important thing that I want to mention here is that animal rights activists are not and should not target indigenous people, maybe sometimes living in the middle of nowhere, and try to make them go vegan for a very simple reason. We cannot always expect people who live in these situations or certain areas to have access to plant-based foods all year round. A lot of them may rely, unfortunately, to kill other animals, and I do not, of course, respect that, but at the same time, there's not much else that they can do other than change the location where they live. So when we talk about animal rights and veganism and adopting a plant-based diet, we are targeting people who can actually do that. People who live in cities and villages where they have access to markets and supermarkets and farmers markets, or they can plant their own food. And it doesn't make sense to directly go and wonder about what some tribe or indigenous people is doing in a certain country's forests. I mean, of course, not all indigenous people or tribes live in forests, but you get what I mean. You try to target and try to raise awareness about a certain subject with those who have the availability and the possibility to act on the subject. So if you are an animal rights activist, and by the way, I've never seen someone do this, but that doesn't mean no one does this. If you are an animal rights activist and you are trying to target these people, I would say maybe switch your strategy and try to speak to those or raise awareness around those who have the possibility to go vegan. Now, on the other side, of course, I do not respect any type of view or speciesist action that someone may take towards another animal, indigenous or not, for a very simple reason. If I believe that I am against oppression and I'm against the exploitation of other beings, human or non-human, then I should apply that to indigenous people. Of course, there is no doubt that as a logical consistency of my stance when it comes to animal rights, I should extend that to my stance to animal rights within these certain communities. The only difference is that if I don't respect a speciesist view or a certain action that is causing harm to another animal, then that doesn't necessarily mean that I am attacking them or telling them they should change, because as I said, not everyone has the possibility to do so. Needless to say, in certain areas, they definitely can actually have the possibility to survive on a plant-based diet, and that would be instead of importing bullets and state-of-the-art guns and snowmobiles, for example, just import plant-based foods. Now, of course, I'm no politician, I'm no health professional, so I don't know how all of this would go, but I'm pretty sure if you can import all of that, then you can also definitely import plant-based foods to help people rely on that. An example of this is, for example, the Inuit. So for those of you who don't know who the Inuit are a group of culturally similar indigenous peoples inhabiting the Arctic regions of Greenland, Canada, and Alaska. So the reason why I say this is because their diet heavily relies on animal-based foods and animals that they kill to eat. Now, a lot of people defend them by saying, well, they're indigenous people, you shouldn't go there and do this and do that. Of course, I am not for targeting them. We still have the whole of the rest of the world population who are not in their situation to target first, and then we can talk about this subject. But even if we were, the diet that they consume at the moment makes them one of the population that has one of the worst life expectancy. So it's not only for the other animals' sake that I would wish that they could just import plant-based foods, but it's also for their sake, because they're obviously suffering because of what they're eating. Needless to say, I'm going to get back to the specific point that I made in the beginning. This is one of the last people I would try to address when it comes to animal rights and making sure that other animals are not harmed by human beings. We would still have to make sure every single person in big cities have gone already vegan and have changed their views about animal rights, and then we can address the other population. So one thing that people on the other side say is that indigenous peoples were so connected to nature and they respected all the animals they killed. It doesn't change the fact that they're killing these animals. If you respect them or not, that's irrelevant when you've killed an animal. If you are killing an animal, you're killing them, and whether you respect them during the process or before or after doesn't really change the fact that you just took a life when you had the option not to. And let's say that again, if you have the option not to. I would love to live in a world where everyone has the option not to kill other animals, but just because we're afraid of, let's say, saying something horrible, doesn't mean that we should just say, no, if you're indigenous, you can continue killing animals, you know? We have to keep in mind that horrible things have happened to indigenous people, and sometimes when this subject is brought up, they might think that this is another result of colonization and racism. However, we have to keep in mind, veganism is not born by, let's say, white culture. Nothing to do with it. The idea of veganism, the idea of animal rights has existed for thousands of years. I've made a video about this, talking about one of the oldest documented vegans, Abu Ala al-Ma'arri. He was a poet, a Syrian poet who lived in the year 1000. And he's even written a poem talking about animal rights and how to consume foods and products that do not come from animals, out of respect and out of justice. Now, needless to say, in some ways, veganism has been, let's say, I don't know what's the best way to put it, but there definitely is a side of veganism that we can call white veganism. But this doesn't mean that veganism is inherently white veganism. This is something that has become a trend. This is something where people engage in a certain action where they don't take into consideration that some people don't have the availability to go vegan, for example, in food deserts, as something that happens in the States. This definitely does not make veganism inherently wrong, unethical, colonialist, racist, or bad in any way. Veganism is very simple. It's a philosophy against speciesism. It's a stance against speciesism. It basically means that you are against discriminating other animals just because they come from another species. Very similar to racism and anti-racism, being against the discrimination of a human based on the race that they belong to. So I hope I explained clear what I wanted to say. If I want to conclude it in any way, it would be, as animal rights activists, we should not focus on them. Again, I've never seen someone do that, but in case someone is doing that, please don't do that. Just concentrate on those who have the possibility and the availability to easily go vegan, because I'm talking billions of people have the possibility to do that. So let's concentrate on them first. When we are done with that population, we can talk about indigenous people and how their diet is affecting other animals and their own health. Now, this doesn't mean that you are against indigenous culture. I would apply the same thing to any sexist views or racist views or any oppressive view that any population, indigenous or not, would hold towards other humans. So if I'm going to do it with those subjects, then I'm definitely going to do it with other animals as well. Otherwise, of course, I would be speciesist. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think about it and keep the conversation clean, respectful, and open. We're here to learn, we're here to grow, and let's do that, all right? I know it's the YouTube comment section and it might get messy, but please try your best to remain respectful and communicate respectfully. That's it for today. If you would like to support my work, check out my website, SEBALEX.org. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. You can also check out my website, ethicsOverhabits.com, for organic and fair trade vegan merchandise. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.